Buddy, I'm just going to mute it a little while I wait for people to turn up. This recording has started. Everyone, for some reason I can't write in my chat box. It's slightly out of view, which is why I haven't written anything, but I am here, don't worry. If you can hear me, just type yes or something. I have an inability to type, I'm not sure why. Yeah, okay, cool. Alright, okay. I know that Colleen is supposed to be turning up tonight, but I'll gently get going. I don't think she's on the line yet. No, not yet, but I'll start anyway. And so, oh, my chat box is looking really weird. Yeah, so tonight's call, I changed it from the arc of development of a strong character to creating a strong female character. No particular reason, just when I was doing all my research, that's what jumped out. And so I thought we'd cover that tonight anyway. And then once we've got that strong female character in place, we can then perhaps look forward to creating that arc. I think the whole reason for focusing on this is because a couple of you, Kim and Christine in particular, were struggling really with the whole idea of making your female lead, happens to be female, strong and not too sort of pathetic and wishy-washy. And that reminded me of the struggle I had when I wrote Voices of Angels, because although Lizzie is supposed to start off being quite weak and passive, the early feedback that I got when I sent it off for other people to read was that she was probably too passive, and people didn't like that about her. So it was a real struggle to know how do I make her strong, and what really is a strong female character anyway. So that's what we're going to be looking at tonight. Before I want to start with this, thinking about, books that you've read, or women specifically in real life, what would you consider the traits or the qualities of a strong female to be? So have a think about that. What do you consider the traits or qualities of a strong female character or a strong female? And then share them. I can read them, I just can't write. Resilience, that's a good one. I thought wisdom as well. Knowing her own mind was something I thought would be quite good. Maybe being a little bit unconventional and not following the rules, a bit of a rule breaker. Being in touch with her emotions, being flexible and wise, so Kim. Able to be authentic and true to herself, so Jen. Yeah, okay, so they're like really interesting. And I think Colleen has just joined us. Hello, to the other side of the pond, as we say. Can you think of any books that you've read in your time where where a female character has stood out for you? So can you think of a book that you've read where a strong female character stands out for you? Yeah, hello, welcome, Colleen. We're just talking about strong female characters. And I've just asked everybody, so I'll ask you, what do you think makes, or what are the qualities or the traits of a strong female that you know, or that what you consider to be a strong female? It might help to think of somebody in particular, somebody specific that you think is quite strong. Because when you think of somebody strong, really, that's probably what your definition of strength is, and you can just apply that to your book. So yeah, the question to you, Colleen, is what do you think are the traits or qualities of a strong female? Soulful and wholehearted, thank you. And to everybody else, including you now, what was the last book that you read where you thought, yeah, you know what, this is a really strong female character? Thinking. Yeah, there are lots of different ways of being strong, that's correct. Oh. Okay, so emotionally and physically strong, yep. We're going to be looking at what makes a strong female character tonight. Oh, I haven't even downloaded my my PowerPoint. You keep thinking while I do that. Okay, there we go. Creating a strong female character. There we go. Right, so before we go on to the strong female character, I just want to remind you about the qualities of your main character. So just park all those thoughts of what makes a strong female character, and let's refresh ourselves very quickly what makes a main character. And the definition of a main character, and anyone who likes a good story can tell you what it is. Basically, main character is somebody that engages the reader so much that they want to find out what happens to that central character. They want to follow this person's journey from the first page until the final conclusion. So what you need is probably someone compelling, charismatic, although I don't necessarily agree that they have to be charismatic. But more importantly, I think, is the fact that there's somebody that the reader can relate to or empathise with. And even more than that, perhaps someone that the reader can themselves think of being, so they can kind of like literally step into their skin and think, yeah, you know what, that's the way that I would like to be, or that's the way that I would like to react, or that's the way that I would like to act. In terms of like, must-haves, I think anything is a must, but suggested for your main character. Normally they're driven by something, it's a desire. It can be an internal desire or an external desire. So an internal desire might be a desire to belong. An external desire might be they want to find something, like find their long lost mother. They want to win a race. They want to win an award. They want to find the man of their dreams. Okay, and they must take action. And this is a really key thing, which I think a lot of new writers miss from their main characters. And this is probably the one that all of you I would suggest focusing on. The main character, including a female main character, must take action in a story. You can't have like a compelling main character who does absolutely nothing. Unless perhaps you've chosen to make your main character so passive and that their arc of development is actually one to do something. But you've got to make that clear to the reader. But normally it's the main character's actions that drive or move the story along. So if your main character is never making their own choices and people are always imposing their choices on him or her and they're accepting it, then that's when your main character, we talk about female main character, is going to be quite passive. If they're not driving the story along and things are happening to them and they just kind of, oh, okay, yeah, I'll go along with that, rather than actually saying, you know what, this is what I want to do and this is the course of action I'm going to take and this is the decision that I'm going to take, even if that decision is not a popular one. And another thing about your main characters that which you know already is they must change throughout the story and also impact on others and bring change to them as well. So if you think of how much Harry Potter changed throughout the course of the 7 books, I think it was, so the very basis of the hero's journey is that it changes him or her. So those are the 3 things to think about for your main character. And if you haven't got all of those in place, that could explain why maybe your story or your book has fallen a bit flat or it's lost the way, or maybe why your main character looks a bit sort of wishy-washy, particularly point number 2. Just going to recap really quickly the hero's journey for you because we looked at it a while ago and it's important to sort of look at it again, I think, because it might create a bit of an aha moment for you. The hero's journey came from Joseph Campbell, who introduced the whole concept of the hero journey. But all he was really doing was just kind of putting something which was really ancient, and been around for thousands of years, and just put it into like the lens of a Western perspective. So all the stories have protagonists. All stories have like the main character. The main character might be an anti-hero or a hero. But the hero, is always the one that we kind of are rooting behind and want to see succeed in whatever their desire is. Okay, so once you've nailed their desire, the reader obviously wants the main character to succeed in that. So whether it's an internal desire like want to belong, the reader wants to really root behind and get that main character to get that sense of belonging. Or if it's external, like falling in love, then obviously the reader wants them to succeed in that goal. And just really briefly here, heroes or main characters demonstrate the kind of qualities that we admire, and their courage and determination and loyalty, nobility of nature, selflessness, conviction and perseverance. So some of those qualities are maybe some qualities that you can put into your main character to give them a bit more strength, determination, loyalty, selflessness, perseverance. just looking at the Harry Potter, you know, the analogy as well, that he starts off as a 12-year-old, he isn't capable of defeating Voldemort, the enemy, but over the course of the 7 books, he accomplishes all these little small wins, he goes on his quests, he makes friends, and that ultimately he succeeds in destroying the enemy. So really, Harry Potter is the ultimate hero's journey, I guess. And you could argue on one level that that kind of essence of popularity is because it touches on a really deep, you know, cultural level that really touches upon those archetypes that we are so used to on sort of maybe like a really deep level that we're not even aware of. So the hero's journey has a call to adventure. Normally, remember, the main character is a bit reluctant, so they receive the call to adventure. And then they've got to kind of, it might not be an adventure that they want to undertake, you know, so therefore we have to introduce the quality of courage, that your main character needs to take on that courage in order to cross the threshold, especially when there's people on like threshold guardians who are telling your main character how dangerous the journey might be. Once the threshold is crossed, the hero meets mentors and helpers, makes friends, and then at that point that we perhaps learn of some of the qualities like loyalty and bravery and defending those friends, you know. The hero or your main character gets challenged and tempted, you know. Let's say he's looking to, using the analogy, looking to belong, and he gets tempted to retreat back into his cage, into his shell. Thinking of Genevieve's book in particular here, where her challenge is, Lucy's challenge, I think, is to integrate into society and to let go of being such a loner, I guess. One of her temptations or challenges along the way might be to sort of, you know, to retreat back into that safety net of a flat. But then, you know, she overcomes that and therefore demonstrates those qualities of determination and perseverance. And so you kind of keep firming up that goal. So whatever, I suppose that the qualities come out when they're faced with whatever challenge that you have put across them. So the different qualities and the strength comes out related to the challenge that they're facing. When he goes into the abyss, which is when he faces death or rebirth, that's probably where you learn of your main character's selflessness and conviction as she faces losing, you know, something or somebody that she values the most. For Genevieve's example, again, it could be her complete sense of identity or herself, or the old way that she saw herself. The main character could face death, you know, or even worse. And then the atonement change, when they realise that something has to change. Your main character learns humility, and then they return with the gift of their learning. So that's a really quick recap of the hero's journey for you, and hopefully that reminds you of the whole journey that they're taking. And the point for me to bring it up tonight was not to bore you with it again, but if you have been feeling a bit lost, if you've been feeling like your main character has lost their way, it might be an idea to refer back to the hero's journey, to look at the particular obstacles that you have put in their way, to refresh yourself with their, you know, going back to their desire, to refresh yourself with their desire, and sort of say, you know, okay, what is it that I'm trying to say? What is it that my main character wants to achieve? Okay, and then looking at the obstacles that you're putting in their path, and then looking at the qualities that they would then need to overcome those obstacles. So really it's always about stripping it back to their desire and their motivation, and then looking at the obstacles that are stopping them from achieving what they want, and then the qualities that they would then need to overcome them. And I think that's how you'd make a strong character ultimately, regardless of whether they're male or female, because the obstacles are either internal, which a lot of, you know, Genevieve's book is very internal, or in the case of Kim's book, I think quite a few of them are external because of quite a lot of physical danger, as far as I've picked up so far. So there could be more external qualities that she needs to, take on, or even emotional qualities, actually, of inner strength and perseverance. So let's say that, you know, the main quality that, I'm going to use Kim's book now as an example, that Kim's, you know, main character Amber is going on this big journey through, you know, past lives. You know, Kim may have set up her character as lacking perseverance in the beginning of the book, somebody that sort of gave up things a bit easily and was a bit sort of wishy-washy in her life and never saw anything through. And it could be that in the ultimate journey for the main part of her book, the one quality that she really needs is perseverance. So therefore you'd set up the challenges in order to have that one quality fulfilled and shown. And in Christine's book, I'm just using the books that I know, sorry Colleen, because I don't know your stories as well, but in in Christine's book, where, you know, you got the whole, you know, meeting up with Madeleine in France and reconnecting with her father, it could be that she needs to, you know, the quality of forgiveness is one that she needs, that you might have set up in the first part of the book, that forgiveness is something which is really hard for her to achieve. So again, you put challenges in her place which show that actually, you know, she does need to forgive, and that would be her journey. So, you know, set up the obstacles according to the trait that you want to see. Hope that's clear. Is that clear to you all? Let me know if that's clear or you've got any questions. Otherwise, I'll move on to the next part. Okay, good. Good. Right. So what makes a strong female character? I think recently there's been a real spate of books where strong female characters are basically just women, but in men's shoes. So you have, like, I don't know whether you've read The Hunger Games, but, you know, the female character in that, Katniss Evergreen, was basically somebody very physically strong. She literally hunted. She was the breadwinner for the family. So she had all these male qualities, and that spurned a whole maybe, like, in this whole series of other young adult books where the female character was physically really, really strong, you know, but do we really need, I think my question is, do we really need a female character to be physically strong in order for her to be strong? Which is why I asked that question at the beginning of the book. So strong female characters, this is a quote I got from a New York Times article. These days, strong female characters are often just female characters with the gendered behaviour taken out. Basically means just, you know, women in men's clothes. So yeah, the question is, does she have to be physically strong in order to be strong? Because a lot of writers have gone down that route to demonstrate women's strengths. Okay. And the point being that when you look at some of your strong female friends, you know, they actually have really commonplace things in their life. Okay, so strong female friends, you know, might enjoy painting their nails or putting on makeup or wearing a pretty dress. They might sort of wear, you know, high heels. They might be mums. They might be writers or doctors. They might cry. They're able to comfort a friend. Might be afraid of spiders. So all of those qualities that a strong female character has are really normal, but the distinction is those qualities don't make a strong female character. None of those things define a strong female character. So when we talk about a strong female character, I think there are a few things that you can actually use to, to define them without resorting to the whole they have to be physically strong, you know, metaphor in order to be strong. So quite often, strong female characters are smart, you know, they're intellectually strong. Think Hermione in Harry Potter. I'm using Harry Potter a lot tonight, but she didn't have qualities that were particularly feminine. She was like brainy and sort of a bit nerdy, but you know, and she actually wasn't even sort of magically, she was more of a muggle, wasn't she? But actually, you know, she contributed a lot to the defeat, and Harry Potter couldn't have done what he did without you. Okay, so Smart can mean like, you know, quantum physicist smart, like super uber smart, but it can also mean just a woman with common sense that lets her find creative or intuitive solutions. It can mean a woman who's like talented with using her hands, like an artist, or maybe she's a, you know, you can invert it a bit and make her a mechanic. You know, maybe she's a really good cook, or, you know, maybe it's a quirky skill. Basically, somebody that I think, especially if you're not writing a young adult book and you're writing an adult book where your character is, you know, of working age, what is it that she does? And if she's basically, I would say, just got an office job, inverted commas, is her role particularly coveted or highly sought after in the office? Is she doing something that nobody else could actually do? So think about the roles that they've got. Even if it's not a profession, is it a hobby that makes them, you know, it's something rare, some talent that they've got, either a gift or they're just like a smart brainy box. I mentioned this earlier on, but I'll bring it up again because it is really, really important, especially for a female character. They act rather than react. And so what I mean by that, you know, you've probably all read the kind of book where you've seen a female character who stands by and maybe watches somebody get killed or hurt, and she's not actually done anything to sort of intervene. You know, when, you know, she basically, I suppose the metaphor is that she waits to be rescued rather than tries to escape herself. You know, that's the classic one. So when you're having a strong female character, she's a lot more resourceful. She doesn't stand around waiting for solutions or for like the knight in shining armor to rescue her. She'll try to escape on her own, and whether that's maybe something internal or external. Basically, you know, when faced with a bad situation, she works to change the bad situation rather than just sort of accepting it without a fight. So when you've got bad things going on in your book, you know, how your key character, your main character reacts is really telling. So when something happens to them, do they just go along with it sort of blithely and non-questioning, or do they stop and say, actually, that doesn't what's the word, respond or relate to my values, you know, that's not really what I agree with, or I would like to do it this different way because this way is what I believe in. And if in a tight predicament, you know, could your main character be the one that comes up with a solution rather than somebody else coming up with a solution? She makes decisions. So rather than waiting on somebody else to call the shots, or somebody else to advise her the whole time and somebody else to be the mentor role and her just taking on the advice, she's actually strong enough to stand on her own, okay? So she's someone that, you know, maybe in a tight situation where there's a decision that needs to be made, maybe it's her that makes that decision. And maybe it's even an unpopular decision, but she decides to make it anyway. So she's, you know, she's strong in terms of leading, I suppose, you know, rather than just being part of the crowd. If they're in a group situation and there's a whole bunch of people stuck in the lift, she could be the one that works the way out of the lift rather than letting somebody else, you know, make up, you know, to do it. Unless, of course, you want to make her the other person, but again, that has to be shown why she is that person. Other than the reader just again, why isn't she more dynamic? Stands up for what she believes in. You know what? This could be something like on a bigger sort of worldwide level, like a president making decisions because she's doing what she thought was right, perhaps invading another country. You know. Or it could just be she's got an internal set of values. Maybe she's a vegetarian, you know. So the book I read recently, which I talked about on Facebook, The Fault in Our Stars, which is about two cancer victims falling in love, you know, the character was really strong, even though physically she was very weak and not very attractive. You know, she was really strong, and little things that she had was like she was a vegetarian because she didn't want to what's the word, you know, be responsible for any more necessary deaths on the planet. So it's like little things like that, you know, maybe she's really eco-friendly, you know, maybe she kind of avoids places like McDonald's, you know, she's got values, and so she stands up for these values, and somebody, what's the word? Somebody contrasts them, and that's, you know, I think a lot of your traits or your strengths of your female characters are going to come out in moments of conflict when somebody challenges her. Maybe she has to make a decision which is going to make her unpopular, but she's not afraid of making that decision, even if that decision just seems to really go against the grain. But I think it's really important perhaps to sort of think about what does she believe and what does she stand for. And what do you stand for if you don't know the answer to that question? What kind of, you know, what things do you do in life which are uniquely you? I do go to McDonald's, but I know a friend that literally refuses to go to any sort of, or eat any fast food thing just because of the way that they treat the animals. So that, you know, it's a tiny little something, but it gives her a belief, doesn't it? It gives her something that sets her a little bit apart. I think also that, you know, you've got all these quite strong traits, but what's really great is that you do mix them with a bit feminine. So then, you know, because the smart, acts, makes decisions, stands up for what she believes in. I'm not saying that women don't do this, but they are perhaps more sort of masculine traits, perhaps, when you think of it. And so what's really, in order to create a really rounded female character, you know, you do want to throw in the feminine. You know, she can be someone that has really pretty, you know, nail polish, you know. She can be someone that, you know, always gets her hair done. She can be a mum of 3 kids. You know, she can be, you know, somebody that bakes cakes. You know, she can have those feminine qualities as well. I think, you know, the stronger characters are ones that are mixing them all up. And quite often, main characters, I've talked about this before, they're flawed. You know, nobody wants to read about perfect characters. Perfect characters are flat, you know, quite boring. And when your character's got a flaw, it makes them a bit human, so it could be a bad habit. You know, maybe she always does fall for the bad guy, you know, or maybe she's really stubborn, you know, or maybe it's an external habit, like, I don't know, biting her nails or something like that, or a weakness of being scared of spiders or whatever it is, you know. I think essentially when you're creating a strong female character, you know, like any strong man, you know, they can stand side by side with a strong man, and they're confident in the knowledge that they're different, you know, but they're also equal. Okay. So really, it's, for me, the key ones in all of this are probably acts rather than reacts, and stands up for what she believes in, and makes decisions rather than waits for somebody else calling the shots. And if you want to make her a lot more three-dimensional, it's about throwing in some of the feminine elements as well. So having looked at all of that, what comes to mind, or how do you react, or what are your thoughts to looking at that? And have you got any ahas or insights about your female lead characters, having read that, looked at that, or heard that? Interested to hear how it's making you reflect. Yeah, and share the ahas, because if you tell me stuff now, I can then react to it and, you know, help you more. Yes. I'll just go through them one by one. So, Colleen, yeah, I think you're talking about the fiction piece of the young adult one that you shared. You responded and said, yes, how amazing that was, and continue. So it's really great that you've got those character traits. So I'm really pleased that you've got that kind of validation. And for a young adult piece, rather than, you know, obviously you can't demonstrate the professional qualities, but at school she could be particularly gifted in one subject. She doesn't have to necessarily be part of the popular crowd. Quite often the young adult protagonists aren't part of the popular crowd, but she's unique and special in her own way. Maybe she's different to the popular crowd because she's got something that she really believes her, which goes against the grain of what all the popular girls think. She might not necessarily be into all the girly makeup and stuff like that. Kim. Yeah, I think we've talked about this a little bit, about when you've got a character who maybe grows into these character traits, how do you start off at the beginning? And it's just an answer. I think the answer is that you need to sort of test and measure, and it's a bit of a trial, you know, trial run, I guess. So I think in the beginning you want her to have flashes of this. So maybe in her ordinary world, you know, you show her standing up for something that she believes in, and maybe, or okay, that's one thing, and then maybe there's a couple of decisions that happens where actually they were made for her, but internally she sort of rages against it and says, oh, you know, why didn't I speak my mind? Why didn't I put my foot down? You know, why do I have to be the kind of person that goes along with the crowd? When will I learn to be a little bit more standing up for myself? That's a really clumsy way of doing it. You wouldn't do it exactly as I've said it, but there's a, you know, it's something like a situation that comes up where she, you know, she could have gone, you know, the hero route, but she didn't. She went the sort of weak route, and later on you perhaps might have a mirror scene to that, and then she embodies the qualities that she wishes that she had have embodied earlier on, and then in that moment you see her resolution and her completion towards where she's going to be. And I think, you know, in the first third of the book, you know, you gradually sort of get her going stronger, and see a couple of little flashes of the person that she just grew to be, but she's not acting in that way yet, and so you show the frustration against herself for not being, you know, all that she could be. Hopefully that helps you. Just reading all your comments. Kim, just sticking with you for a while. Decided to make her more angry. Yep. Yep. Okay, so maybe in the beginning she could, you know, could have a scene, maybe after the funeral, something or before the funeral, where she sort of rages off at the family, and she's kind of like, you know, or I don't know if you meant externally angry or internally angry, but if it's externally, she just goes off the handle, then thinks, why couldn't I handle myself better? Or if it's internally angry, but she never says anything, she'd be like, well, why didn't I speak my mind? Why didn't I just, you know, be honest with myself and be authentic? Then later on, when they have a mirror scene going on, you know, she sort of, you know, she does speak her mind. But I think the way that I got around it in my book was having her internally say, which isn't the best way, but it was a way that I used, was, you know, when something happened and didn't stand up for herself, she would go into a bit of internal dialogue and say something along the lines of, you know, why couldn't I be more pretty? You know, why couldn't I stand up for myself? Blah, 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 blah. And then as the book goes on, that internal dialogue sort of disappears, I suppose, and you see her standing up for herself. But I did give her a couple of flashes of standing up for herself in the beginning, because the feedback was she was too weak. So it's about creating that balance, but I would show her impotence and her disappointment at herself through internal dialogue and the reflection on her weaknesses, show a couple of flashes of actually trying to manage and control herself, and as the book goes on, just showing her, you know, growing in strength and doing that through the actions. In a second, just going back a little bit. Christine. I've realised that her defining gift needs to be more defined, and she needs stronger than desired than just. She needs a stronger desire than just wanting to change. I think I can't remember what your main character does, but from memory, she works in sort of a nursing home, doesn't she? If you're talking about the young girl, yeah. Then what she think of something that makes her a little more unique. You know, it could just be the gift that she's You know, maybe she's keep using the great cook thing, which isn't a great one, but you know, just something more tangible than she's really caring or she's really good with people. It's something a little bit more specific that she's really good at, and maybe she's a bit humble at. Maybe something that the dad, you know, which the dad picks up on. You know, I don't know whether she is into music as well. Maybe her gift is completely other areas. So yeah, think of the gift. And then also the stronger than desired and wanting to change. It's correct, I suppose. It probably does need to be, because wanting to change, that is very general, and I'm trying to think if I ever had a desire that I wanted to change. It's always been more specific. I've wanted to change in certain areas. I wanted to change to the degree that I wanted to magnetize my dream man, and I knew that I had to let go of things, but the desire was a lot more specific. So to answer that question, I'll be asking, why does she want to change and what's the outcome that she wants? And that might help you just get a bit more specificity on why she wants to change, and then, you know, really harness that and focus that desire in. Colleen at work, it's funny. Yeah, I'll try to sit quietly. Genevieve, various things whizzing around your brain, think about it. I know, I get the impression, Jen, you always like to process things a little bit. You're a bit like me. I kind of think, like, come back later on with questions. So if you have got questions after the call, obviously just put them in the Facebook group. Colleen, absolutely right. The growth of the character in young adult fiction is really important. It's just as important as it is in an adult book. I think in young adult book you must see it a bit more because it's much more of a coming of age story. So quite often, you know, the girl is sort of, she's more girlish and adolescent when she starts out, and maybe her growth is a, you know, sexual awakening, or maybe it's a growth of just taking on more adult qualities, but it is a lot more enhanced and exaggerated in a young adult book. And it's almost easier to write because of that, because I think in an adult book you're almost focusing on one specific character quality or external goal that they're seeking. In a young adult book you could just have them growing up, so it's a bit easier. That's why I like young adult. Jen, I really like not having a feminine woman, just in favour of having a really strong feminine woman. That's great. And I posed the question on my Facebook earlier on about, you know, what do you think is a strong woman? And Swan came back with a really good answer. Like, you know, her definition was somebody really spiritual and just with a strong, wise centre, somebody authentic, somebody really true to themselves. And along that line, I actually I got loads of comments of what people do think is a strong female character. So I'll read them out now just before we go on. So I just took this from a website. Just various comments. So a strong woman doesn't have to be the stereotypical kick-ass heroine. She just has to be decisive when a situation calls for it and willing to take a stand. My number one definition of a strong woman, one who knows what she wants or is willing to work it out, and doesn't take crap from anyone. These are from fellow writers, by the way. For me, a strong woman is one who can take whatever life throws at her and stays true to herself, whatever that may be. She doesn't have to beat the snot, that was weird, out of bad guys, and she's allowed to cry and ruin her mascara, but she stands up for herself and those she loves. She stands up for what she believes in. She still remains compassionate, funny, and easily distracted by a pair of nice shoes in a store window. So like you said, the whole being true to herself is quite common thread in all of these. A weak female character is one who lets her path be decided for her and doesn't even know what she wants in life. I think strong female characters are ones that make decisions for themselves and act, while at the same time remaining true to themselves. Also, there is huge strength in being emotionally vulnerable and compassionate. Hardened, masculine female characters, in my opinion, come off as actually quite weak emotionally and scarred, as they'd have to build up the exterior wall. I think a willingness to face the consequences of her actions is a big one. She's not a strong character. She blames somebody else for her mistakes or lets somebody else take the fall for her. Hopefully these are helping you. They're just people, readers and writers' comments, what they think makes a strong female character. Sometimes a strong female character would do things that are not always likeable. A strong woman does not do what she thinks, sorry, the strong woman does what she thinks is right, regardless of the heat she might take for it. Strong women aren't just women, strong women aren't just men in women's bodies. They are empowered, confident, secure, smart, able, courageous. They aren't afraid to fight for what they want, go after what they dream. Ambitious is a good trait to have for a female character, and speak up for what they believe. One of the strongest, bravest women I know is actually a loving, happily married, stay-at-home mum of 3. And this might appeal to some of you. The tarot card for strength is most often illustrated with a maiden holding a lion in her lap. Physical power is just one way of being strong. I love reading about smart women, problem solvers, women who aren't afraid to admit they love a good pedicure and great shoes, and women who aren't afraid to admit they couldn't care less about shoes. Women who sit around waiting to be rescued irritate the crap out of me. Is my final comment on all of that. So hopefully that was useful, just like a bunch of readers and writers who put forward what they love, what they look for, what they perceive to be a strong woman to be. And I think the common traits from that are, people that seem to be quite comfortable in their skin, perhaps, who are, you know what they want, you know what they're going for, that they're okay with that, they're empowered, they're confident. Yeah, I like all of those. Just reading your comments again. Okay, Christine, musically she has extraordinary talent, but she's put it to one side. So maybe that's her gift, she's really talented. Maybe that she had some sort of scholarship that she took up or left halfway through or never accepted. And maybe her resolution is that again she goes back to that scholarship. It's just one way of looking at it. Kim, having a feminine, strong woman character is much more powerful, I think, too. And I think that would really suit you, Kim, in particular, to have somebody that is, strong in her femininity and her feelings and not afraid to say when she cries and, or admit that when she's wrong and all those kind of things. Genevieve. So Lucy starts off weak with hints of strength, and her arc of development is finding and embracing her strength. I have a feeling I've got too much weak Lucy and less strong Lucy. It's some balance I need to get. Kind of what I said to Kim earlier on, maybe having a mirror scene. In the beginning, she does rail against her weakness quite a lot in the beginning. And there's this, you could have a scene maybe where she could have made one decision, but she didn't, and she kind of beats herself up for not going that way. But yeah, if you're afraid that you've got too much weak Lucy, you could have her, having some sort of moment of strength, or perhaps reflecting back on a moment of strength. You could have a little flashback to the past where she was really strong with something. But yeah, having some glimpse of the kind of person that she could be is better, because otherwise the metamorphosis might be a little bit too, oh, hang on a second, she's gone from that to that. I think, there's always glimpses of the person that we could be, the person we see in the mirror that is the full version of ourselves. So maybe having a glimpse of that might be kind of quite good to look at. Just having a couple of hints of it earlier on. I was just reading your comment, Connie. You have to read it a couple of times. Yeah. You love manicures and pedicures. I love getting my hair done. You know what I mean? It is that she doesn't have to be sort of someone that's really masculine and butch. She can be soft and feminine and wear lace and all those kind of things, but to be really strong of conviction. Okay, great. I'm on the money with you, Christine. There you go. Okay, I've got some exercises for you, as always. If you're kind of stuck, a little bit about how to, sort of, Christine, for you and Kim, you're still looking at how to make them, get inside their skin a bit more and kind of get this whole element of strength, it might be a good idea to free write from your main character's point of view. And by that I mean, when you start to think that your character's really alive, that's obviously a lot better. So, you could be writing about your characters, like, my dad's really bitter because, his dad remarried and his stepmother never loved him, and and she loved her own kids better. So that's kind of like an intellectual way of like looking at a character. But if maybe, you know, and you could even look at your own character that way. Oh, my main character is bitter because this happened to her and that's why she is. What's actually a far stronger way to do it is actually step inside that character's skin and free write. So it'd be like, rather than writing about it, you're writing from their point of view, you know, and you're feeling their emotions a lot more. So something on the lines of, oh my God, you know, can't believe that my dad is married again. It's just really pissed me off, and it makes me feel like I want to kind of tear my hair out, and this is how I feel about it. And you're not trying to write or trying to make anything that's ever going to be published. You're just capturing the emotions that your main character might feel about a certain situation. And then that helps you get into their skin more. If you're feeling a sense of detachment from your main character, that's a really good exercise to do. Look around you, see what strong women there are out there, you know, start to look at, you know, what is the definition of a strong woman mean for you? You know, it might, for me, it might mean something different to you. You know, my definition of a strong woman is somebody like, you know, Ellen MacArthur, you know, that can sail single-handedly around the world. And similarly, it might mean somebody that, you know, is really stands for their convictions and stands tall and straight. So what does it mean to you? You know, maybe you can write a list of qualities of a strong woman. Think of some strong women that you admire and just write some collective qualities of them. And then maybe you can start to put them into your main character. Give them something to stand up for in the world, you know, conviction, even if it is just being vegetarian, but give them something sort of, you know, that they hold on to and believe. Yeah, similarly, almost like the same thing here. Give them something to believe in, even if it's a general trait, like they believe in the concept of true love, or they believe in the concept that other people are inherently good. So they will see the good in somebody regardless of what they're faced with. And think about what messages that you actually want to give out about females in general. As a writer, you have quite a lot of responsibility and power. And so, you know, you kind of, I don't like the idea of always giving out the image that a female character is weak and passive and has to rely on guys, etc., etc. You've got a lot of responsibility, so what's the message that you want to give out about female characters too, and think carefully about that. Okay. Yeah, that's great, Kim, that you started writing a diary. Yeah, fantastic, from Amber's point of view. Okay, before I end, do you have, that is the end, that's those are your exercises. Do you have any questions before I go? Any questions about tonight's call? No, got my voice just went. Okay. I will. What I will do, all those comments I had from fellow readers and writers, I'll post them in the Facebook group, or I'll just post the whole notes actually, so you can actually read through them in more detail. These are my notes, not the notes that you've got on the screen, they're just the slides. I'll post up the actual notes so that you can refresh them and respond to them. I think the biggest piece of advice is just to sort of find out what a strong woman means to you, you know, and then echo that in your writing and get inside their skin and do a bit of free writing. All right, ladies. Thank you, and have a lovely evening, and I'll see you soon. Okay, bye bye.